While the world was focused on the front lines in Ukraine, something much bigger was unfolding behind the scenes. Germany, a nation long defined by pacifism and a weakened army, began a silent and revolutionary transformation. New tanks, submarines, and spy satellites are turning the Bundeswehr into a force no one expected to see again. And it all started in 2022, when Russia's invasion shattered Berlin's last political barrier. This is the military rebirth that could redefine power in Europe. After World War II, the world decided that Germany could never again pose a military threat. The country was banned from developing nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons. And when the Cold War ended, the 2+4 Treaty of 1990 reinforced those limits. It not only guaranteed the reunification of East and West Germany, but also imposed direct restrictions. The German army, the Bundeswehr, could not exceed 370,000 soldiers. For decades, these rules shaped a purely symbolic defense doctrine, with no ambition and no real deterrence power. Germany grew used to relying on the nuclear umbrella of the United States and NATO, while its own army slowly turned into a paper giant. Before 2022, the Bundeswehr was a joke even within Europe. An article in The Spectator once described it as a complete joke, and it wasn't an exaggeration. Internal reports showed that less than half of its armored vehicles were operational. The Tiger helicopter fleet, bought at an enormous cost, spent more time in hangars than in the air. All Type 212 attack submarines were out of service in 2017, none capable of leaving port. Soldiers trained without ammunition, without bulletproof vests, and in some cases using broomsticks painted black instead of rifles during NATO exercises. The situation was so humiliating that in 2018, the commander of the ground forces publicly admitted, "If Germany were attacked today, we couldn't defend ourselves for more than 2 days." But all of that changed in a single weekend. The day Russia crossed into Ukraine didn't just shake Kiev, it woke up an entire country that had been asleep for decades. When Russian tanks rolled into Ukraine in February 2022, the whole of Europe was in shock. But nowhere was the impact as deep as in Germany. For years, Berlin believed that trade and dialogue would be enough to keep Moscow in check. Suddenly, that illusion collapsed. The country realized that peace was not guaranteed, and that depending forever on American protection was a risk it could no longer afford to take. 3 days after the invasion began, Chancellor Olaf Scholz stood before the Bundestag and spoke a single word that would mark the beginning of a new era: Zeitenwende, the turning point. In a historic speech, Scholz announced a radical shift in Germany's defense policy: 100 billion euros in immediate funding to modernize the Bundeswehr, and a firm commitment to invest 2% of the GDP in defense, finally meeting NATO's target. The Germany that once avoided any kind of military leadership was now declaring before the world that it was ready to take it on again. In just a few months, the country that once avoided even talking about weapons began buying them on an industrial scale. Germany wasn't just reinvesting in defense, it was rebuilding an entire army from scratch. The starting point was the special fund created right after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And the most important detail, this money is separate from the annual defense budget. It was approved as a national emergency measure, and the goal is simple: to fix decades of neglect in less than a decade. The funds are being distributed across equipment modernization, military infrastructure, and NATO strategic projects. Part of it was allocated to upgrade the Büchel and Jägel air bases, which will host the new F-35 fighter jets. Another portion is going toward restructuring barracks and command centers, many of which still operate with technology from the 1980s. There are also heavy investments in ammunition, logistics, and interoperability with NATO allies, something essential for German forces to operate side by side with the United States, France, and the United Kingdom in real time. For the first time since the Cold War, Germany has aligned its industry, its budget, and its diplomacy toward a single goal: to become militarily relevant again. Germany's rearmament plan is ambitious and covers all branches of the armed forces. In the army, the focus is on mobility and firepower. The new Leopard 2A8, Europe's most advanced battle tank, has already entered serial production. It comes with reactive armor, state-of-the-art thermal sensors, and a digital targeting system capable of hitting moving targets over 4 kilometers away. Alongside it, the Puma infantry fighting vehicle received electronic upgrades that allow integrated operations with drones and real-time artillery support. Heavy artillery is also being renewed with new 155mm howitzers and GPS-guided munitions, the same kind of precision that has transformed the battlefield in Ukraine. In the Air Force, Germany made a strategic decision to acquire 35 F-35 Lightning, two stealth fighters capable of carrying American nuclear bombs under NATO's nuclear sharing agreement. This puts Berlin back at the center of Europe's nuclear deterrent. In addition, CH-47F Chinook heavy transport helicopters have been ordered to replace outdated models and expand tactical airlift capability. In the skies, air defense is evolving as well, with new Patriot systems and the Iris-T SLM, capable of intercepting cruise missiles and drones more than 40 kilometers away. At sea, the German Navy is being reborn with the U-212CD submarines, developed together with Norway, featuring air-independent propulsion and near undetectability. The fleet will be complemented by the new F-126 frigates, multi-mission vessels designed for long-range operations, something Germany hasn't done in over 30 years. It's a transformation that's becoming a model within NATO, but Germany knows that modern wars aren't won with tanks and planes alone. The next battlefield is digital, and Berlin wants to be one step ahead. The government has created specialized centers for cyber defense, artificial intelligence, and electronic warfare. Joint projects with Airbus Defence and Hensoldt are developing jamming systems capable of blinding enemy radars and disrupting battlefield communications. In space, Germany is launching a constellation of Sarah spy satellites, equipped with synthetic aperture radar sensors that can observe any point on the planet, day or night, under any weather conditions. These satellites feed intelligence directly to NATO's Joint Command, providing real-time data, something that once depended almost entirely on the United States. In addition, the Bundeswehr is investing in military AI to analyze battlefield data and predict enemy movements, as well as in defense programs against cyber attacks and digital sabotage. All of this shows that Germany's rearmament is not just an arms race, it's a structural transformation, a technological leap that repositions the country as both a military and digital power. And it's precisely this combination of technology and purpose that is making Russia look westward with something it hasn't felt in decades: fear. But this revolution didn't stay confined to barracks or laboratories. Germany's new military power has already begun to project itself beyond its borders. Since the start of the war, Germany has gone from a cautious observer to the second largest individual provider of military aid to Ukraine, behind only the United States. More than $14 billion have been delivered in equipment and logistical support, and that number keeps rising. Among the deliveries are Leopard 1 and Leopard 2 tanks, Patriot air defense systems, Marder vehicles, and Iris-T missiles, some of the most advanced in Europe. In addition, Berlin has funded training programs for Ukrainian pilots, engineers, and officers on German soil. The country that once hesitated to send even helmets now supplies systems capable of taking down hypersonic missiles. This shift has cemented Germany as a pillar of European resistance and turned aid to Ukraine into a symbol of Berlin's new strategic stance. Within NATO, this change translates into something even greater: operational leadership. Germany is becoming the backbone of the alliance's conventional defense in Europe. In 2024, Berlin announced the creation of a brigade of 5,000 soldiers permanently stationed in Lithuania on the border with Russia, the first permanent German deployment abroad since World War II. The mission is clear: to serve as an advanced line of containment against any Russian movement on the eastern flank. Beyond that, Germany leads NATO battle groups in Slovakia and the Baltics, coordinates Central Europe's integrated air defense, and takes part in the European Missile Shield alongside Poland and the Netherlands. With its new command, logistics, and intelligence capabilities, Berlin has become the nerve center of the alliance's joint operations across the continent. In less than 3 years, Germany has gone from NATO's weakest link to one of its most capable pillars. But in the end, this story goes far beyond tanks, planes, or alliances. It's about how a nation chose to break its own chains and rewrite its place in the world. Germany has gone from an army in ruins to a military power undergoing rapid reconstruction. From a country that once feared any hint of militarism to one that now leads Europe's defense and invests billions to guarantee its own security. It's a transformation that changes not only the Bundeswehr, but the balance of power across the entire continent. The great question now is Germany ready to face Putin's Russia? And even more, is this new military strength a guarantee of stability, or the beginning of new tensions in Europe? The answer to those questions may define the future of European security for decades to come. Because one thing is already clear: the German giant is no longer asleep. Now, Germany's rebirth is only one part of this new military era. But while Berlin awakens, Moscow bleeds. Click on the card on the screen and see why the math already proves that Russia's war is lost.